15, cuts left at the 20, lots of room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
And we are here for another episode of Believe in Kentucky, coming to you live streamed on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network, alongside Jalen Whitlow, UKQB, and Gershon does this thing for the catspaws.com. My name is Vinny Hardy, and fellas, we are here again with, if only we had something to talk about. There hasn't really been nothing happening that,
It's very quiet here in Lexington. Very.
Yeah, we were up, Sunday night, Monday morning when stuff started popping off during the episode with Cal to Arkansas, and now he officially lands today, has his introductory presser, and he's their coach now, and we're looking to see what's next here.
Yeah, we sure are, and we're tracking planes, we're chasing down leads anywhere we can get them, but we're in a coaching search, a major, and not taking anything away from Kenny Brooks, but we're in our first football, basketball coaching search here in over a decade, and obviously in our first men's basketball coaching search here in 15 years. So it is a historic time, to say the least, and Mitch Barnhart's definitely on the clock. This is something in today's era of college sports where you have to make the right decision, but you have to do so in a very timely manner. The transfer portal is open. It's not open for that much longer. Obviously, teams that have a coaching change, that portal will open up for a certain amount of time, but that's coming to an end. There's a dead period that expires on Friday. Kentucky's already lost, what is it now? 3 commitments. That's just going to keep going up. So the time is at the pressure is on for Mitch Barnhart, and we'll talk about what I'm hearing, the latest thing that's happening in the search where it's trending, but it is a historic, crazy time right now.
Jay, Ray, get your thoughts, because all this stuff popped off late Sunday. Smoke on Friday, Saturday, but then it just was rolling Sunday night into Monday morning. So get your thoughts on the latest developments and all that stuff, Jay.
Yeah, man. I thought that, I think it's good for both. Like I said, I think it's good for both sides. And we talked about this a while ago. Like he said, I think, they need to hear a new voice, man. I agree with that. I just think something happened within the past 4 years, 5 years or whatnot. And, it was time for a change. I think, he was fed up. He won't say this, but he was probably fed up with the antics or whatnot from the fans, the vitriol from the fans. He was probably fed up with that. Being in his shoes, you got to think, okay, we probably hadn't won as many championships as we would like to have, but we won one. We're having good seasons up until 19 or 20 or whatever, and we're sending so many guys to the pros or whatnot. In his mind, the program was doing well up until that point. But like you said, I think he wanted something new. Like he said, get reinvigorated. I think I saw something where he said that this year reinvigorated him or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably best for him to go somewhere and kind of see if he can strike another match, man, and see what he can do. But to be honest with you, 3-4 years ago, would I ever thought that John Calipari would be leaving Kentucky to go somewhere else and coach, especially a place like Arkansas? No, never would have thought it. But again, people get fed up with things. People want to try new things and maybe kind of save their legacy in a way. I think that he could do. And like you said, I think Kentucky fans and Kentucky people should be excited about what's to come. Because at the end of the day, you obviously needed a change. And whoever that change is, you're at a blue blood school like Kentucky, you're going to get players now. Will somebody come in here and recruit to the level that he did? Probably not. But you're still going to get 5-star. You're still going to be in the top 3 or 4 or 5 in recruiting every year. That ain't going to change. I don't care who. They could bring. I can get hired as the head coach, and That's not. I mean, it's Kentucky. You know, kids want to come to Kentucky. So that I don't think that'll change. You know, however, I do think they need to bring somebody in here who's going to kind of bridge the talent and the discipline and fundamentals and the culture piece. You know, kind of bridge the two. Because at the end of the day, it's been proven that you cannot win with. You can have 7 or 8 draft picks on your team. You can still not win. That's been proven over and over and over again. UConn has proven that you can have a team and be dominant and be obviously the best team in the country. It's not even close. So UConn has proven that you can be maybe not as talented as Kentucky or Tennessee, maybe, or maybe not as talented as not even Alabama. You know, not as talented as those teams. But if you do it right, if you come in here and it takes a lot of energy and commitment from everybody to build that type of program. But what Dan Hurley is doing is, I mean, if I'm Mitch Barnhart and Dr. Capilouto, I'm throwing everything I possibly can at this dude. I mean, everything. He's by far, he's head and shoulders the best coach in college basketball right now. And I'm not just saying that because he won the past 2 years. I'm saying that, but what he did in the past 4 years there, like he doesn't have top 5 talent in the country. He doesn't have it. He has a good team. He has good players, but he doesn't have lottery picks everywhere like the Kentucky may have or whatnot. So, you know, like I said, I'm throwing the book at him. You know, they need a change, and whether you get him or somebody else, it was about time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It was time. You know, we came on here and said that. All 3 of us did 2 weeks ago after the season, even after Mitch Barnhart at that time said that Cal was coming back. We all kind of disagreed with that. We understood the buyout, obviously, but it just felt like the time was then. So now it ends up being Calipari leaving on his own will. Kentucky gets a fresh start. He gets a fresh start. The money is stays on the books for Kentucky to hire a coach away from another program and also, you know, get all their ducks in a row. And I think it'll be a little bit of a healing process for everyone. Now, it is going to be an interesting factor that Cal's still in the SEC, and you're going to hear his name all the time. It's not like he's going to USC or UCLA where he's on the other side of the country in a different conference, but you know, you're going to see him. Obviously, the schedule makers will make it happen that they're at Rupp. I assume they'll play twice. They'll play in the SEC. Maybe they'll play in the SEC tournament. At the very least, you'll see him there in some capacity. So, like, Cal's not going away, which is a little frustrating, I think, for everyone. But he is out of here, and this program is going to get a jolt of new energy. And we'll talk about who that might be in a second here. But it needed to happen. I didn't think it would happen this way. It's stunning it happened this way. But I do agree with everything you just said, Jalen. There are different ways to win, different ways you have to win in this day and age. And Calipari, in his introductory press conference, talked about that to his credit, saying, like, I can't bring in a ton of freshmen anymore. I have to be older. That's what's winning. So maybe he'll make the transition himself at Arkansas, and that's fine because he had 6 guys lined up here, and it probably just was impossible for him to do it the way he had already committed to things. So he'll get a fresh start at Arkansas. Kentucky will get a fresh start with somebody new here, and you know, all sides will move forward. But you know, Cal's is going to be looming a little bit still.
Yeah, and you could see it in his video when he posted yesterday. You know, the goodbye video. There were moments of reflection in there.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he paused, you could tell it was hitting him, like it was the reality of what was happening was sinking in as he talked. Sure. He was reflecting in real time. And look, he is who he is. He's going to be what he's going to be. I think the parting of the ways was for the best.
Absolutely.
But a little bit of that vulnerability would have been nice to be seen after losses in press conferences. If you had been like that sometimes after a loss, instead of being so water rolling off your back, like you acting like you're not bothered, when Tennessee comes in and leads wire to wire, if you're a little bit more like you were, like we didn't do this right, we didn't do a little bit more vulnerability, or when you lose to Oakland and you say, I hurt for the players, well, you should be pissed too. You should be, and look, he always handled it the way he did. But if we just seen a little bit more of what we saw in that goodbye video, that's just me talking.
I don't disagree.
It might have, he would have been perceived a little better, a little differently, but we instead of just kind of being so calloused and or whatever. But look, all that's in the past now. Everybody's moving on. He's happy, and Ellen's video was classy too.
Absolutely.
And she's always classy from day one the whole time. So I'm not throwing shade. I'm wishing them the best.
Sure.
I hope you, of course, beat them when you play them. But off the court on the court the past 4 or 5 years hadn't been what everybody thought had been the standard. Even if he's honest with himself, he knows that.
Absolutely.
And that's why, another voice, and maybe he lost his fastball, lost his grip here, not able to reclaim it the way it was. And so, he's moving on. A new start is best for everybody. Like it's like you said, Aaron, it's stunning the way it played out this way, because I thought after the Oakland loss, there'd be a parting of the ways. And then you have the meeting with him and Mitch, and no staff changes, and everybody's coming back. And then you still end up having him leave, which is still, a fresh start for everybody. So,
yeah.
That's where we're going.
I think at the end of the day, and, a spade is a spade. People's happiness is tied up into their team winning. And we all know that. Just go look at the comments. I was watching Ryan Day's press conference. Go look at Ryan Day's press conference. Go look at the comments under it. And the stuff that people say about a coach who hadn't lost more than 6 games since he's been the head coach is crazy. But he lost to his rival 3 years in a row. However, so what I'm saying is people's happiness is tied into this thing, man. People's experiences are tied into their team winning. It is what it is. It's just the American way, I guess. That being said, winning is the most important thing. Regardless of what people say, all the philanthropy he's done, all the good things he's done, the consistency he's had, regardless, I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. At the end of the day, people care about the W's and the L's in the columns. That's all people care about. That's all people care about at the end of the day, because they know it's making people happy, and it's, piling people's bank account up. It's piling their money. So that's the world we live in, and at the end of the day, and I say that to say, with living in that world, if we just really take an honest look, the past, I don't know how many years, forever, NBA and college basketball, who wins championships? The team wins championships. The team with the most lottery picks hardly ever win the championship. Hardly ever. It's always the best teams. It's always the Golden State Warriors, the Denver Nuggets. It's always the teams that play the best together. It's always the most disciplined teams. That has never changed. Never changed. So with that being said, they got to bring a guy in here. We know Kentucky's going to get players.
Yep.
They have to bring a coach in here who's willing to be cutting edge when it comes to offensive scheme, when it comes to getting guys to play defense, when it comes to the culture in the building. You got to do that, because at the end of the day, it's been proven that the best teams don't win the championships, especially in college basketball. The best teams hardly ever win. The teams with the best players hardly ever win. The best teams always win. But the teams with the best players hardly ever win the championship. Now, college football, that's different. That's a brute sport. There's a lot of man-to-man confrontation and contact on the field. In college basketball, I'm trying to think in the past however many years did Kentucky in 2012, the most talented team won it. But let's call a spade, man. You got to be able to play basketball as a team. You got to be able to play defense. You got to be able to create offense with your scheme. You have to, and UConn is showing everybody that they're lapping people right now. It's not even close. It's not even a contest. They're lapping people. Did they even have a game within 10 points in the NCAA tournament?
2 years in a row, 13 plus. 2 years in a row, both runs, and two. I mean, they had a couple pieces the same. Newton, I believe, and then Donovan Clingan. But you look at the rosters.
Yeah, they lost
a lot of things.
Yeah, they lost 5
because they lost NBA dudes
from last year. Is
yes,
5 stars.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a game within 13 points.
Both years.
So that tells you a lot, man. Like if I'm a coach in college basketball right now, I feel terrible about myself.
Yeah,
I feel absolutely terrible about myself right now. Especially if I'm at a blue blood program who has better talent than UConn, which there are a few. I feel absolutely terrible about myself. There's a guy out here who's beating everybody by double digits every game, and he has worse talent than I do. That should make you feel bad about yourself as a coach. I've lost games as a coach where teams weren't better than us. And those are the games that you never forget about because you failed as a coach. It is what it is. Like that's the truth of the matter. Any coach with any honesty will tell you that. So with that being said, they got to bring somebody in here who's not going to fail in that department. If you lose games, you got to lose because a team was just better than you that day. You cannot continue to get lapped when it comes to X's and O's or when it comes to, having a good team. You cannot allow that to happen. So hopefully they made the right decision. I'm sure they will. But this decision is going to be the biggest decision they've made at the university in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Got some comments. I'll pop them up here on the screen, and then we'll get to Aaron. You saw the press conference, and then some nuggets on who it might be. So let's see. Jason Huber, appreciate everybody putting comments. Jason says, Cal's happy, says Vin. I think the look on his face several times today said otherwise. First of all, I didn't see his presser. I was recording my other podcast, but I was talking about his video, the goodbye video. You could tell he was
the goodbye
video sad in that one. And then he did, of course, say he was jacked to be at Arkansas, but I didn't see his face in the Arkansas.
I thought the goodbye video did not look happy.
No.
The pictures at the airport and the videos from the airport, I kind of was like, oh, maybe not. But I did think watching his introduction, watching the press conference, there was some juice that we haven't necessarily seen here in the last couple of years. And maybe he just didn't really need a fresh start. Arkansas, it is making a very, very big effort to give him the resources he needs to succeed out there. And, again, I understand they're not Kentucky. They're not a blue blood, but they have a national championship. The last 5 years under Eric Musselman, he kind of brought that program back to what it was in the 90s. I mean, they were in the Elite Eight twice. They were in the Sweet 16 once. And you could kind of tell because he's a showman. He loves attention. And as soon as he walked out on that stage and Arkansas Nation, to their credit, showed up and packed that gym, you could tell he was like, all right, I'm loved again. Let's go. So I do think there was a little bit of a flip of the switch once he started that presser. We'll monitor and see how it goes. But I understand. Was it Jason? I'm sorry. What was it? Was his first name?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thanks. I understand why he thought that, but I do think the intro is a little different.
Yeah, he may jet for the NBA before the season starts. Well, we'll see how it goes, just like you said. And look, we're not 65 years old, but to be in a place a fourth of your life like he was, and then to up and move in like that. Now you're in Fayetteville now, and you got to live there, and no team. I'm sure that's a lot, even though he's the coach and he's moved a lot before. He was, Memphis and UMass and assistant coach at Kansas and with the Nets and with the Sixers. He's moved a ton, but he hadn't moved in a while.
Right.
And now you're in your golden years, and here you're up and moving from Lexington to Fayetteville in a moment's notice. So, yeah, I know he was looking to get out, but then when it's actually happening, that's still a lot to process. So, another comment: it's time to make UK basketball about competing for championships, not draft night champions. So,
yep, I agree with that.
And in the Final Four, the 4 teams, there weren't many 5 stars at all. Was it 1 or 2 total on all the starting 5s or something like that?
For which team was it?
All four: UConn, Alabama, Purdue,
not that many.
and NC State.
Yeah, a couple here and there, not that many.
Not
that many.
Let's see what else we have. Yeah, Carl Holiday. You can get all the 5 stars, but being able to coach them is another thing. Yep, that's true. Tyler Ulrich about Cal. He didn't seem too excited about the Razorbacks doing the presser. Time will tell.
I disagree with that, but that's okay.
All right. I'm going to watch it. I wasn't able to watch it live. I'll go and watch it.
Yeah, I do agree from the airport stuff and the video he put on Twitter, obviously, talking to Kentucky fans. Yeah, I would agree with that. But I thought the presser is what changed it a little bit for me.
Yeah. Ready to talk about the Scott Drew era of basketball. Let's go and transition into that, AG. So
yeah, I've heard. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that Scott Drew is the hottest name out there right now. It's obviously been reported in some places, including with I think Keith Taylor had it first, that there's an offer out there, and my read on it is that is the case, and he's kind of been weighing his decision since maybe last night or this morning. I know he put that tweet out there at a Mexican restaurant at Baylor. I have no idea if that was from today, if it was just to get it off the case for the flight tracking crap. I don't know. But that was just, we haven't gone through a coaching search here. That's shenanigans that's happened on the football side. So don't read too much into that. But what I've heard, and I think it's kind of been reported elsewhere too, but I've been hearing it, I'd say since like 1 o'clock today, is it seems Scott Drew wants to be here. He's ready to make that step. He's a very religious person. Like, it's not even like a I don't know the word I'm looking for, but sometimes you'll say, oh, you got to pray about it, and you don't take it seriously. I think in his case, like it is, his faith is very important, and his family is kind of going through the pros and cons, and they've been there for 21 years, so it's a tough deal to leave what they've built there. And I've heard there's some hesitancy on the side of his wife. She's a laid back, reserved woman, and you're going into a fishbowl here, and it's going to be a pressure cooker, and expectations are going to be there. So
she might call Ellen on that, because Ellen was quiet and laid back and under the radar. She started to come out more towards the end and be more visible and all that. But
right,
I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but I'm not sure if they know each other. But call Ellen if they come. Give Ellen a call as far as how you want to approach that, Mrs. Drew.
Right. So I think that's kind of where we're at. I've heard some people report, and I've tried to chase it down. I can't confirm or deny that there's kind of like a hard deadline on tomorrow, because again, you got to act swiftly here. So we'll see what happens. And then as far as Dan Hurley goes, as far as I know, there was truth to the fact that they were going to make a push financially. It's kind of who the boosters pick, but it's just, he's not leaving UConn. It's just not. I mean, they have a chance to three-peat. Obviously, the money at UConn it's a little different. They don't have football revenue coming in. There's angles of it where Kentucky definitely would bring a better financial situation, but he's a Northeast guy through and through. He has a chance to make history here. I don't think the timing, it's going to happen with Dan Hurley. So the question obviously will become, if it's not Scott Drew, and Dan Hurley for sure is out. I haven't heard it's like officially official. I just heard it's like 99% unlikely. Like, don't get your hopes up with Dan Hurley type stuff. But the question will be is if it extends past Drew and past Hurley, where does Kentucky go? There's obviously the Billy Donovan stuff that's always looming with these searches. And, he is a guy that I think is more maybe open than he has been in the past to coming here. But timeline just I'm not a huge NBA guy these days, but I know they're in the play-in tournament, and I think that's not till the 17th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, next week. Yep.
They're what? They're a 10 or a 9? What seed do they?
Yeah, I'm not sure which one, but they're
okay. So point is, he wouldn't even be available for at least a week, and I just don't think you have that time to waste. So then it would be, where do they go from there? And that's kind of the next step of me trying to see what candidates are true or not. I mean, I've seen some stuff on Sean Miller. I just have my doubts that Mitch Barnhart would go with a guy that left a trail of destruction at Arizona. And obviously, they were not that good his last 3 years on the court either. They didn't make the tournament at all in those 3 years. So I just don't see it going in that direction. I don't think it's going to go in the Chris Beard direction either with his off-court issues. So maybe you're talking, I think Bruce Pearl's a guy who would walk here. I don't know if you want to go there. He has a history to him too.
Yeah, from way back. Yeah,
Brad Underwood's a sneaky one. Tommy Lloyd, an up-and-comer, but I do think I need to believe Scott Drew is not coming here until I see it. My guess is Scott Drew. I'm not reporting that it's happening by any means, so don't take it the wrong way. But I do think, obviously, Scott Drew is the guy that Mitch Barnhart has a strong affinity for. He was the chair of the NCAA tournament in 2021 during Baylor's run to the national title. He literally presented Scott Drew with the national championship trophy in 2021, so that there is a strong relationship there. And it seems like it is a family matter at this point. And if he decides to stay in Waco, you got to respect that decision. And we'll see what happens, but I would say it's Scott Drew's job if he wants it, is what my understanding on the whole situation is.
Another question from Jason. Aaron, you hear any buzz on Dwayne Peavy getting involved in all this Arkansas stuff?
No, I didn't hear any of that. I do think there's some truth to the fact that Cal maybe had a little bit of cold feet or was kind of like, oh boy, what did I do here? And maybe they'd walk back and try to say to Kentucky, not counter, but say to Kentucky, hey, no, I'm good. And Kentucky was like, well, you just signed your walking papers. We got to do this now. So I think there's some truth to that, but no, I haven't heard anything about Dwayne Peavy being involved now. And I don't think he would, personally.
Yeah, he's got his own program now. And
really go get Bruce Pearl.
You said you should walk here. So.
He would walk here. He really would. And we've heard it at Prescott. He loves Kentucky. And he's a good man, I think, genuinely, but he has baggage with the NCAA stuff. He's 64 too now.
Yeah,
so he's
same age as Cal almost.
Do you want to like Scott Drew's only? People forget that Scott Drew's only 53. He's been at Baylor forever, but he got there when he was really young. He only was a head coach for a year at Valpo. He obviously spent a lot of time as an assistant there with his dad, and then his brother was a player, really good player. But he's not an old guy. So if Scott Drew succeeds here, he's a guy you could have for 15 years, like Cal, or 10, like Joe B. Hall recommended. So, I don't think Bruce Pearl. I mean, I think it's an option if it gets past him, but I would have some reservations about him. I would understand, I should say, I wouldn't personally. I think it would be a good hire. But if I'm Mitch Barnhart, I'd have some reservations about it, just because of all those factors I mentioned.
Deacon Larry Ramsey, if Drew doesn't take the job, well, you can't go after Shaka Smart.
I don't know how you can justify that hire. And I think Shaka's a great offensive mind. I think he's a good person, but he went to the Final Four in his first tournament ever at VCU. Since then, they're 5-9. I think it's 7 or 6 first-round exits. They've lost to Abilene Christian and Stephen F. Austin, Northern Iowa. That's not going to go well here. And if he crushes it, and Marquette even, they got to the Sweet 16 this year. That was he hadn't been back to the second weekend until this year, and then they got punked by NC State. So, I need to see more from him. He was only 47. So, if Shaka goes and starts kicking ass at Marquette, then we could have this conversation again. But I've heard he might be on the candidate list. I just don't know how. That would not. There aren't many hires I'd say are bad, and I'd have to say that'd be a bad hire. You can't justify that one. I'm sorry.
And this has been a constant. A little big Blue Nation, they will bounce back. The blips and the dips, they've been able to sustain it. They've been good hires after bad hires. You rectify those. The Gillespie, you bring in Cal, Eddie Sutton, followed up by Rick Pitino. So the ship's been righted. Everybody knows the history. 8 different championships by 5 different coaches over decades. UConn is impressive what they've done these past 25 years, winning 6. That you got them with 3 different coaches. Got to get them blue blood status now, but
they are 1,000%.
To quote Cal, Kentucky always eats, and they will continue to do so. Even if Mitch messes up this hire and has to fix it in 2 years like he did with Gillespie, or he can, knock it out of the park again like he did, and probably walk off on, hey, the last hire I made, because I've got the women's basketball in place. I've got Mingione doing good. Skinner's doing well in volleyball, gymnastics as well. Got all the things across the board.
Program's history.
Yeah, got all these sports across the board better than when I found them.
Yes.
Now I get this basketball puzzle fixed, and then I can dip on out because he's at the end of his career as well at some point, because he's not going to, like Tom Leach said this morning, he's not going to do this 20 more years. So everything will kind of be in place and better for the next guy, and that's ultimately what he wants it to be. So.
And that's why I think, look, if you can't get Dan Hurley, which there's also a little bit of risk with Dan Hurley, because I'm not sure. I think he's talked about it publicly. I know I was reading it somewhere from an NBA writer that he seems like he's going to be an NBA guy eventually. And he's always, what if that's in 5 years? And then, you don't get him for as long as you might want. So I think Scott Drew is a very safe hire. I understand why some fans are hesitant, but Baylor, you got to understand what Baylor was when he got there, rather. It was the worst power. It was Vanderbilt football. They had been to three national champions, three NCAA tournaments, 1946, 1948, and 1950. Did go to the Final Four twice, but way back when. A player murdered another one the year before he got there, and they were on NCAA probation in 2006, couldn't play any non-conference games because their coach, who was there when a player murdered another player,
the whole Dave Bliss stuff.
Players. So they were a disaster. And he was able to get them to the NCAA tournament in, I think, year 5 or 6, 2008. Since then, they've only missed the tournament 4 times. In those 4 times, 3 NITs and a championship in the NIT. And they've been in the tournament the last 6 years, or 5 years, would have been 6, because they were on track to be the number 2 overall seed in the 2020 NCAA tournament. So Cal always talks about, what happened in 20? Baylor's a team that should be talking about that, because they had a legitimate chance that year, and then they come back next year and win the damn title. So this is a coach who, and up until maybe the last 2 years, the Big 12 has been much better than the SEC in basketball. Just is what it is. And he's gone head to toe with Bill Self for those whole 20 years, and he's done a lot of winning. So I think Scott Drew is a very safe hire. He's already been able to get some McDonald's All-American like guys to Baylor. He has one coming in this class. That will translate and do even better here. He uses the transfer portal. RJ Dennis, one of their better players this year, was a transfer, and they've done it in the past with transfers. He is a very good offensive X's and O's coach. He's looking where he stacked Jerome Tang, who is a very good coach and did a great job, has done a great job early in his tenure at Kansas State, was with Drew for 20 years. FAU just hired his next top assistant for their job. He's let other assistants go off and be successful head coaches. This is a very good basketball coach who is still only 53 years old. It is a very safe hire. Is he going to be flashy and talk the crap that Calipari would or Hurley does? No. Is he going to win the press conference? Maybe not. But I think if you want to win basketball games and you want to go take care of business, I don't think you can go wrong with Scott Drew. So I would be very excited if that's the hire tomorrow or whenever it happens. Not tomorrow. I'm saying tomorrow. I've heard I've heard there's a deadline of, hey, we got to get this. We got to know. But he's someone to get excited about. I don't really understand the negativity out there about him. I get he's not Dan Hurley. I'm not trying to say Dan Hurley wouldn't be the best hire. I'm just with what's out there. Remember, Louisville fans were dying for Scott Drew. They were on their knees begging for Scott Drew.
That's true. And I'll say this too, for just a feather in his cap, because everybody went through COVID. He won a title during COVID. It was in the bubble. The tournament was in the bubble. Just
they
like
kicked ass in that tournament too. I don't know if any game was even within 10 in that either.
And honestly, and just like Jalen, I'm gonna use your phrase, call a spade a spade. The wheels were kind of coming off for Kentucky. You're 9-16 during COVID, and then starting to St. Peter's and Oakland and all this. So everybody went through it, and they were able to go win championship at this time. And when things were slipping and not going as well as Cal hoped, or as well as we would have hoped these last 4 or 5 years. So that kind of carries some weight too for him. And then he's meat and potatoes. He's not flashy. He's not charismatic, and growing up with Pitino, you had the flash, you had the big city, you had the New York guy, Cal, big personality, charismatic, same way. Tubby Smith was more meat and potatoes. He still did well here. Sounds like Scott Drew's gonna be a meat and potatoes guy, a solid dude, but not gonna wow you with the sizzle and all that. So people have to get used to that if this is who ends up being hired. But there's
he'll do his pregame press conferences. He's going to take accountability. I've just heard he's a great human, which I'm not saying Cal isn't. I think Cal off the court is a very good person. I just think his act got old here and all that. It just expired, which is fine. But it'll be a change of pace for sure. But I do think at the end of the day, like you said, Jay, it's W's and L's. That's what people care about, and I think you're going to get some W's with Scott Drew at the helm. And I mean, remember too, if you want to go back and if you want to compare to Cal, was it 2012? Their toughest game in the NCAA tournament was Baylor. Baylor's the one who gave them the scare.
Hey.
And who was coaching? And who I believe it was the first Big 12 SEC challenge. Who came to Rupp Arena and won? I think it was at Rupp Arena. I might be wrong. It might have been Waco, but still, Scott Drew did. So I'm just saying, this guy can coach. Baylor is not they're in the Big 12, but I would love to know where that job ranks even in the current standing of the Big 12. It is just not it's a private school. There's it's in Waco. There's limitations to what you could do at Baylor, and he has shattered all of them. I get they hit a snag in the tournament. The 2022 team, I think they were the number 1 overall seed, and they were ravaged by injuries, more so than any injury bug Kentucky's had in recent years. They were down to 6 dudes, if I remember correctly. And so, they've had their hiccups. There's the infamous game against one of the Ivy League schools where, with Prince saying, oh, they got more rebounds, whatever the rebound thing. They've had hiccups, but this guy at Kentucky he'd kick some butt, I think.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to some football, spring game, and all that too. Just gonna take a quick second to talk about the Autograph app. We've been talking about it for several episodes, where you can get rewarded for doing things you already do. You're gonna listen to podcasts like this one. You're gonna read articles. You're gonna consume UK content. It's off-season content now. It's coaching search content, but you're still gonna be keeping up with all of it. The Autograph app was co-founded by Tom Brady. It's redefined the fan experience by letting users earn points for the acts of fandom they take every day, like listening to this show. The Autograph Fandom app gives you access to all your favorite Kentucky content in one place and offers rewards like tickets, exclusive merchandise, and more. You're already listening to our show, which we appreciate, but now you can earn points and get rewarded for it. So it's a win-win. Head over to the Apple App Store and search for Autograph Fandom Rewarded and download it for free today using the referral code BELIEVE Kentucky, BLEAV Kentucky, all together. The link in the code will also be in the podcast description. So check out that Autograph app. There's a leaderboard. You can keep up with the articles you read, podcasts you listen to. You get points for each one. And you can be eligible for all kind of swag. They were giving away tickets throughout the tournament. The regular season, there were, Kentucky, Alabama tickets, Kentucky at Tennessee tickets, all kind of things you can be eligible for. So now go in there and check out the content about Kentucky baseball, who is doing amazing. Coaching search news, go in there and check out all of that. Baseball team actually finally dropped a game. It's been the first time they lost in a while. It was a midweek against UAB, was it?
Yes.
No, Sanford,
yeah. They're
in Birmingham.
Yeah, they're playing a lot of Alabama.
My bad, Jalen. My fault. I can't be messing up the Alabama school and the locations.
Well, they just swept Alabama. They lose to Sanford, and now they're going to Auburn. So
yeah. And it was one of those things. They've been losing. They get behind in some midweek games, and then they fight back and have a big inning and still find a way to win. But okay, so you drop one. You maybe looking ahead to Auburn, even though you're not supposed to do that. But 11-1 in the SEC. Arkansas is 11-1 in the West. That's going to be a monster series coming up in a couple of weeks when Arkansas comes up here. Yeah. So, but Nick Jones is, hey, they're rolling. 11 conference wins already. Auburn's a little bit down. Florida is struggling. Got destroyed by Florida State last night again. So, a lot of these other teams are kind of just, as the old people say, fairly middling around 500. You got Kentucky with a nice little cushion. So hopefully they can just keep it rolling. And as long as the pitching staff shows up, they're going to have a chance in every single game, man. And the bullpen, which is it's been solid, man.
Absolutely. Yep.
So had to get that in before we move over to football. Spring practice, and now we're going to have a kind of a spring practice, spring game, right? Is that what we got going on Saturday?
It's a little unclear as to exactly. I just know they won't be tackling to the ground. I don't know how, and they're not going to split up teams or anything like that. So I don't know. Like, I don't. When they do 11-on-11 stuff, I don't know how it's going to work. If it's just going to be a live, as close to a scrimmage as you can get, whether or it's going to just be like some of the normal open practices you've seen throughout the years, where they just go through their periods and do their work, and the fans just get to watch it, and it'll be at Kroger Field instead of at the Kraft Center there. So I guess Kraft Facility. Kraft Center's on the other side of town or other side of campus. But I don't know exactly what to expect. Maybe we'll get some more clarity when the defensive guys talk tomorrow, but the fans will get to see something. They'll get to see something. And obviously I'm just looking forward to seeing something, because we got to go to open practice last Saturday, but we didn't really, there was only, in the time we were allowed in, only one 11-on-11 period, and it was all run plays except for like 3 throws, and none of them were thrown by Brock. So never really got to see Brock throw a live pass. I don't think there was even maybe 1 or 2 7-on-7 periods, not much. It was mostly individuals. So I'm looking forward to at least seeing Brock Vandegrift throw a football, and some of these guys that we've heard about, like Hardley Gilmore, Jamori Macklin's out, but Raymond Cottrell, some of the new guys, and then even just Jamin Pop Johnson run around on defense a little bit. I'm looking forward to at least seeing something more, maybe, that than the open practice there last week.
Yeah, I mean, I am too, man. I want to check out the offense, see what's going on. Again, they're gonna keep everything close to the vest, which I guess you should. New offensive coordinator, whatnot, new quarterback, but one day we'll get a chance to see a full-fledged spring game. But I guess until then, we'll just be appreciative of what we see, what we're privy to. But yeah, I want to see. I'm sure they got something fun in store, some type of O-line, D-line challenge, depending on how many D-line they want to allow to get involved in that. I'm sure there's going to be 7-on-7 in there. Maybe some 1-on-1s in there. If I had to guess, man, I would assume that it's going to be like an open practice that you see a lot of teams have in a league, exactly, where fans can show up and just watch. I don't know what else you really do, unless you have some type of fun skills competition, which would totally break the mold. But I don't. Which may be a good idea. Who knows? But
fun.
Yeah, I mean, they would love to see quarterbacks go at it and see who can throw the furthest and hit certain targets and whatnot. But if I had to guess, man, it's going to be an open practice, a pseudo, kind of open practice or whatnot, where they're staying off the ground. They're going to have fun with it. We also got to take into account that they have practices after this quote unquote spring game.
Yeah, they have 2 more, I think.
So they're gonna use this as a fun day for the fans. Let the fans see guys throw it around and that type of thing. If I had to guess, so get back to work. In practice next week.
I was watching Brock Vandegrift a couple of days ago in his media session, and I forgot what he was asked. But his answer was basically something to the effect of, and Jalen, this is, all these young guys, you got guys that come up and their whole career, they've never been in the center, their whole career, they've never huddled, all these things. And it makes it sound like you played 100 years ago. All these changes, and it's not that long ago. I mean, look, I was already grown with 2 kids and watched your whole career in Kentucky. It's not like you played with like Bart Starr and Joe Namath and all that. You know what I'm saying? You're like barely late 20s. You're not even barely 29, 28, 30 years old, whatever it is. But just all these kids coming up after you that I've never, huddled. I've never been on the center. I never turned my back to the defense. All this stuff. It's crazy. But Brock was saying something to the effect of huddling and the tempo. I forget what exactly he was asked, but he was talking about having the ability to command the huddle even though you don't do it frequently. Like every 29, 30 plays you're in the huddle. But he was saying I have to work on being good when I do huddle, even though it's something I don't do often, still looking guys in the eyes and actually being smooth and, having it flow. So it was just interesting to me hearing him talk about that. Something else that he's got to be good at, even though he's not going to be doing it often. And I just wanted to just get your thoughts on it because I was like, I'm going to ask Jalen about that when he comes back on here.
Yeah, man, like they say, man, it's an art to everything. I'm sure that I probably couldn't do your job, probably couldn't do Aaron's job because there's an art to it. You had years doing it. This is what you do. So huddling is the same thing. Some people, is it just getting in a circle pretty much and telling people to play? It is. But, you can do that well as well. You can do that to there's levels to doing that as well. Commanding the huddle, looking guys in the eye. And it's really about your tone of voice too, man. I always tell quarterbacks, it's about how are you saying the play? If you're mumbling the play, then I don't have much confidence in this shit's going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to say the play with some confidence, man. You got to speak up and say it. And the guys got to believe in you. And that goes back to what do they see you doing in the offseason? Do they see you in the build? I mean, it's just so much that goes into playing. Quarterback's the most complex position in all of sports. It just is. I mean, it just is. It's just so much that goes into it. But yes, like you said, my last season at Kentucky was 2013. My last season playing college football was 2015. A lot has changed since then. When I got to Kentucky, we huddled. We didn't huddle all the time, but we huddled. And Randy Sanders believed in that. We were pro style, kind of old school in some ways or whatnot. And we huddled. We play action from under center. We did that. I didn't do it much at all in high school. But nowadays, you got guys coming in who, they may run a Tennessee style offense in high school, and some guys have never taken a snap from under center a day in their life until they got to college, which is crazy because at the end of the day, I always believe in kids knowing their history at the position and starting with the base stuff, and that's teaching them how to break a huddle, teaching them how to take a snap. But you got guys that are 21 years old who've never done it. Yeah. 22 years old who've never done it. So that just goes to show you how much this game has changed. But you still want to have that fundamental skill if you have any aspirations of playing on Sunday, because at the end of the day, those teams still do it. Those teams are going to use it. And I thought it was interesting how, with the new, what do they call it, the new device, the helmet, to headset communication and whatnot, you're going to get some teams that they believe that they can play faster. This is actually going to turn them away from huddling even more. When I heard this, I thought, okay, you're going to get some teams, they may huddle now because they, it's easier. It's streamlined communication. But according to some people, this is going to get them away from huddling even more, which is really kind of odd when you think about it. But anyway, I just think it's unique, man. You got kids who are, in their 20s that still play quarterback who've never had a chance to take a snap from under center in a real football game. So that's just crazy. But I'm excited to see because I've been hearing a lot of good things from what's going on at practice with that offense. Yeah. A lot, like really. there's some people who are really impressed right now with what's going on with the quarterbacks and with the system, and with the pieces in the system, the players. So, and again, we said this last year, probably. We probably said that the year before. But, I'm just anxious to really see, because I think this offense is going to open some things up. It's going to be a little bit different. You can tell Mark Stoops is kind of taking himself out of his comfort zone a little bit. And I really believe that. He's kind of like, okay, I got to change a little bit. I got to make sure I get comfortable being uncomfortable, because in spring ball, it's the time to try things. And he's trying this tempo thing right now. And you can tell by how he's speaking about it. You can tell by how the players are speaking about it. Obviously, Mincy played at Tennessee, so he actually said that the tempo is not fast at all to him.
No, he did.
Which it's probably not, because the way they operate over there in Knoxville is a little bit different. But I'm anxious to see it, man. I think you're going to get the quarterback run going a little bit. The quarterback's going to run the football a little bit now. And with that being said, you better have your second and third guy ready to go, because it's football. You put your guy in harm's way. He may get banged up and have to sit out a few plays or whatnot. So Cutter Boley has been turning heads, and I know that for a fact.
Yes, he has.
From great sources. He's been they are really excited about what he's going to do in the future. So I'm anxious to see how that looks.
Yeah, I really like what I'm hearing. I'm honestly more excited about this. Maybe I shouldn't be. Who knows? But from what I've heard and the vibes I've gotten, again, we didn't get to see really anything last Saturday, and that's not UK's fault or anything. It just is where they are with injuries and all that. But like with the tempo, with what Bush Hamden's, just look at their numbers at Boise State. Like, that was a really freaking good offense. I'm not going to say I've sat and watched every game, but I've watched a couple, and I'm very high on what Bush Hamden's all about. I'm high on him as a person from getting to know him so far and hearing what he's about a little bit. And I'm definitely, I think the offensive line, whether Zach Yenz, I really like Zach Yenz, the human, but it just seemed like they needed that coach that's going to kick him in the ass a little more, and Eric Wolford's going to do that. And we saw him do it in 2021, and I think they've been pushed a little harder. I really liked some of the things that they were talking about, running downhill and full pads and all that stuff. So, I'm excited. I think there's some things trending in the right direction, and hopefully it'll come to fruition.
And but saw Lavelle Wright into the transfer portal today, and like what little bit we were able to see of him at times, but he fit the mold, power back, downhill. He's decided to move on. I did see that.
Definitely. Yeah. Really good kid. I interviewed him for a story before last season. The one thing I guess we got to see more so on the offensive side of the ball last week was the kind of where the depth chart was stacking up, and he was, that they would work in. Chip was the number one guy, then Demi, then Jason Patterson, the freshman, Jim Marion, Wilcox, and Lavelle would line up with the running backs and then wouldn't get the ball. Like, he wouldn't do the drills. So he was really just behind in that depth chart, and so it makes sense. He also missed all of last year with an injury. He's got 3 years of eligibility, so good luck to him.
Yeah. Well, this question, which we've already kind of. Can we please talk about something other than the rival Arkansas coach? I'm over it already. On to new and better things that Kentucky be being good at. And Josh, when you posted this, Josh, we'd already, I think, started talking about baseball, and we've been talking about spring practice and the spring game, but we can't come on here and act like he didn't just land in Arkansas after leaving Kentucky after 15 years. So we got to talk about it a little bit.
To address that. And look, he's going to be around a little bit, whether you like it or not. He's not going to USC or UCLA. He's going to Arkansas. So he's in the SEC. We're not, obviously, once the new coach gets here, we're going to be all over that guy. It's going to be all about that. And, Cal will go do his own thing. I'm sure we'll have to bring up the inevitable commits he gets at Arkansas that were connected to Kentucky, but we will be focused on the new head coach once we have him, and maybe it'll happen tomorrow, maybe it'll happen Friday. It's going to happen soon, but you can't mention John Calipari. It is what it is.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted, man. He gonna get some dudes over there.
Hell yeah! Oh, I think.
I mean, people don't want to hear that because they despise his guts.
Eric Musselman was getting dudes.
Yeah, but he's about to get even more dudes.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a high school kid. I'm a 5-star kid. I know this guy has sent a lot of guys into the pros, man, and that's where I want to go. So I'm gonna see what he got for me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and he got that Tyson chicken and that Walton money behind him. I
think the key for him too is, I'm not going to say there's going to be less pressure because it's John Calipari, and I'm not trying to take shots at Arkansas because it's a place I've gone to now 3 times, covered 3 games there, and I have a lot of respect for it. But it's not going to be like Kentucky where the fans go on Twitter every night and want to fire you after every loss, and they attack some of the players. Even for the players, whether it's a Carter Knox who's probably going to follow him, or a guy in the transfer portal that might not have considered Kentucky but will go to Arkansas, it's good for them too. It's not going to be do or die every single day. So it's best for everyone. And, whether it's Scott Drew or whoever walks in here is also going to get a fresh start. They're going to feel the pressure. But I do also think the fan base is smart enough to realize, like, next year will be year 1. Just don't do what Kenny Payne did. Don't go 4-28. Be respectful. Try to get in the tournament. Probably get in the tournament with how you could rebuild, and we'll see where things go. But this is just a fresh start that was badly needed for all sides, and that includes Cal and Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, he'll reload and all that kind of stuff. You saw what Quentin's requested to be,
C-roll
released and all that. Yeah. So that's to be expected. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would be the only one I have confidence in maybe is Travis Perry, just because he definitely committed to the place, not the coach. But
right.
We'll see. As far as I was told, he hadn't even heard, he had not heard. A source told me, I think yesterday, he had not yet heard from John Calipari. So that kind of tells you what you need to know there. So, he's probably a guy that'll hold over. I know Boogie Flan's focused on whatever event he's out. I don't see that staying around. I don't see Billy Richmond staying around. So it's gonna be a new chapter here. It's gonna be a new roster. I don't know if they're gonna get one dude back from last season. Maybe the Walk-ins. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is what it is. It's where we are. And when a new coach is in place, we'll jump on here and talk about that. And y'all can put y'all's thoughts and pleasure or displeasure in the comments, and we'll have another emergency episode or new coaches hired episode. But yeah, we'll stay on top of all that. Aaron is on top of all of it. Aaron is driving to the airport. Aaron is putting out hot board articles on the catspaws.com. So y'all follow his work, read what he puts out, and stay up on everything you want to stay up on here. Y'all coming to Kroger Field. We'll come see the open practice. We'll see what's going on with that. Spring game is here, and then come out to Kentucky Proud Park and watch the baseball team. And spring will turn into summer soon, and then we'll be back in the fall sports before you know it. But enjoyed everybody taking the time to comment. Appreciate y'all, Jalen and Aaron, coming on here and putting y'all's insights. Always fun doing these episodes. But till next time, appreciate everybody taking the time to check it out as always. For another episode of Believe in Kentucky for Jalen and Aaron. My name is Vinny. We'll be back in a few days. Coaching search news, all that stuff.
Tomorrow, who knows?
Yes, sir. Y'all stay with us. Follow, subscribe, follow, on YouTube and all that. Whenever you subscribe and follow, anytime we go live, you'll see it. You'll be notified and you won't miss us. Tell your friends about us. We'd appreciate it. And we'll holler at y'all next time on Believe in Kentucky.